Welcome, everyone. Today is Wednesday, the 24th of June, 2026, and this is the Cluster API office hours. Cluster API is a subproject of Kubernetes SIGs, and as such, we follow their meeting guidelines, which can be summarized as please be excellent to each other, and if you would like to talk, please raise your hand, and I will call on you. All right. At the beginning of our meetings, we like to take a little time to welcome new attendees. So I don't think we have any on the call today, but if anyone would like to unmute and say hello to everybody, please do so. Just looking through the list here. I think everybody on the list has been here before. So I'm going to move forward. Open proposal readouts. Do we have anyone who would like to talk about either of the open proposal readouts? The independent worker topology or external CA and certs?
The independent worker topology is we're looking at the next steps now. So I think we need to meet with Stefan and go over now that we have the first piece of that merged in, we can look at what we need to do next. So that's the plan right now.
Cool. That's great to hear.
Yeah,
Thank you, Cody.
yeah, thanks.
All righty. Well, let us move into our discussion topics. And I think today is,
Mike,
oh, yep,
sorry.
sorry. Yeah, please.
If I got it right, external CA proposal has been closed because they don't have due to bandwidth, basically.
Okay. Should we take it off the list then, I guess?
I will check in background and because too many notification. Yeah, it has been closed 2 days ago, so you can move it down in stale proposal, basically. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay. All right. Now moving on. Stefan, you've got a bunch of topics here, so I will hand it over to you. Please go forward.
Yep. Thank you. Can you click on the first link on the first part? Okay. I give a bit of context. I'm not sure who's familiar with the concept or with the wording of interning. I was not until I saw it in upstream Kubernetes. So if I remember correctly, what they basically call interning is the concept of usually in Go, if you have strings, they all take up memory independently, and if you have like 10 strings that all have the same content, you use 10 times that memory. So that means that if you have a controller that is unmarshalling cluster objects or whatever else you have, and you have some string or byte array fields in there, they're all like each one of those takes its own space in memory. What you can do with interning in Go is that you can basically, so the result is, if you have 10 strings that are the same, you will have basically just 10 pointers to the same string in the background. And that thing that keeps those strings, the string just one time, will basically keep it in memory as long as you still have a pointer to that. And once all the pointers are going away, that string also goes away. So that's roughly how it works. What I did in Kubernetes is they implemented a new version of managed fields or managed fields unmarshalling, basically, where in the unmarshal function for managed fields, if you set the right build tag, if you basically switch over to the new implementation, they use this technique. And the impact is essentially that if you have like 1,000 objects and the managed fields are all looking the same, then you're just allocating like memory for one string and not for 1,000 strings. The only thing that we had to do to make this work in Copy is on one side, as part of changing the build tag, they basically, so this new fields v1 thing internally was in the past basically on byte array, but it is now a unique handle, which is necessary to implement the feature. So when you switch the build tag, basically this raw field doesn't exist anymore, and you have to use like different methods to set this field. So this PR is mostly just changing to use the new way of setting stuff within managed fields, because we cannot use raw anymore. And then the actual change is at the end, if you scroll down all the way to the end, is that I'm setting the build tag to flip over to the new implementation. Yeah, so that's basically what I did. And the impact, as I wrote on like the Kubernetes issue, is something like in our scale test. I mean, it's just a random scenario, but in our scale test, basically, core copy minus 11% memory usage and KCP minus 8%. No impact on like the bootstrap provider. And I also tried CapV because basically those two are already dropping all managed fields. So this only makes sense if you have controllers that are actually keeping managed fields to play around with them, read, write, modify, whatever. And we have to do that in CAPI and KCP. Yeah, so that's just a bit of a heads up in general. I think maybe two notes. One, if you use our normal released images, you will get this out of the box. If you use Tilt, you will get it out of the box. If you have your own build machinery to build copy images, you might or might not want to set this tag as well. Then you might or might not want to do the same thing in providers, up to you. And one more, in core Kubernetes, they will basically enable this once they did like a bit more of like a large scale test. But from our side, that's already fine. They have been basically running a bunch of the Kubernetes upstream tests for 3 months, and they're just entirely green with like this new build tag. And for what we do, it's sort of, we have a few places where we play around with managed fields. We have end-to-end test coverage for some of them. We have end test coverage for all of them. So we feel comfortable enough that this should just work. Yeah. I think I mentioned everything that Fabrizio maybe wanted to add.
Okay, yeah, Fabrizio raised his hand too, so.
No, I think yeah, I just wanted to give, first of all, you get this in the default cap image because we think that it is safe given the extensive test that did in Kubernetes coverage that we have and the gain. So it is just a build tag 10% memory reduction, which is quite a lot. It probably when they will enable this in Kubernetes, you will have similar or even bigger saving in the API server. There are stats in the PR linked, so this seems a very promising thing. But yeah, we also assume that most of the people that use Cluster API at the end they rebuild the copy for many reasons. And so at the end, it is on the user to make the choice if they want to leave or rely on this, we consider safe or not.
Yeah, thank you, Stefan and Fabrizio. And I want to say extra thank you to Stefan for putting together these statistics and everything. I think it's really cool to see these kind of improvements, and thank you for putting the work in to kind of explain all of that.
If you click just to give if you click on the upstream PR, Stephanie, it is linked somewhere.
The one in Kubernetes?
Yes. Should be linked. Here it is. If you look at the data in this analysis, they are really promising.
Yeah, a little bit down, and then there is one where they basically. What if you keep it there? So the one that should be relevant, I think it's a managed fields line. No, I'm not sure. Decode string managed fields. It's probably this one. They have like multiple things that I want to do. I think managed fields is the one that they did.
Yeah, this is really cool work. I'm happy to see people in the Kubernetes community focusing on this kind of performance work. I think it's really cool.
Me too.
Yes. If you imagine these on pods which are generated by replica sets and machine deployment, so they are mostly all the same, managed all the same way, etc. This is really effective.
Oh yeah.
There were some.
Yeah.
There were some other. I'm not sure which issue it is, but some other thing from Marek basically where he said like he looked at a pod object and basically 50% or a little bit less than 50% is managed fields.
Wow.
And I mean, some of those people there are talking about like 1 or 2 million pods in a Kubernetes cluster.
Right.
So if you imagine that, and then like if these pods are basically, I mean, if you deduplicate the managed fields and most of your pods are just looking the same, you basically can get rid of like half the memory usage for pods.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
Because if you have only like 100 or 1,000 different ones versus 1 million, like in memory. It's basically gone.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Very cool to see though. And again, like, thank you, Stefan, for kind of putting this all together and bringing it to us.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, does anybody else have questions or comments about these changes for the managed fields? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands go up. So Stefan, if you want to talk about the 1.14 alpha.
Yeah, I'm not sure who added like 113 and 112. Maybe you want to start with that.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Fabrizio, did you add this one or Matt? Maybe I'm not sure who was adding before.
I just stuck it in
Probably-
there so we wouldn't forget,
okay.
but I don't have
Alrighty.
any particular commentary.
All good. Okay, already. Yeah, so basically, 113.3 and 112.9 is out. And it jumped on that release train basically. So we were discussing last week that we introduced a new API Go module so that people who only import our API basically get very minimal dependencies. So and because that also required some changes to the release machinery, I asked the release team to also cut a 114 alpha release so that we can basically test like Capi with the separate API module. We did the same work in CapV, and that we just have like the release. We know basically end to end that the entire release works with this API module, and that if someone has time and wants to try, basically also other people can already consume that and give us feedback if they had any problems with that. I wouldn't really expect any problems. The only diff that I noticed, or the only thing that people have to do different that I noticed is that they need to replace statements in GoMod. So we already have the case where we need to replace on, I think, the test module or something. And we need just the same thing for the API module as well. So that's one thing. And the other one, we moved some packages around, but it's just 2 or 3 packages like class API / errors or something. So this should not be super breaking. I think we'll document this slightly more once we get to the first like beta or RC or something. I think I have a note somewhere in the release note tracking issue that I should write a little bit about that. Yep.
I have a question here looking at this. And first of all, like I think it's really cool that we broke the API module out into a separate location. It kind of gives me some interesting thoughts for the future of like cluster autoscaler and Carpenter and stuff like that. But I'm really curious, because I want to get Cap K to the point where someday I might consider contributing it to the core repo. I'm wondering, could I start using the dev star types outside of the repo, or would I need to install something? Do I need to do like a dev install of cluster API to get those types?
So what are you using today? Do you already have CapD or not?
Well, we don't have a kubemart cluster object yet. So I guess at some level we're kind of like I could build up to it, but I'm thinking about the machine types and whatnot.
No, I was just wondering if you're asking something like, hey, kubemart, you already tested with CapD in some combination. Are you just asking if instead of Docker cluster, you can already use dev cluster, or if the question is something
well,
different?
yeah, we do use CapD to create the control plane node for kubemart because because kubemart doesn't run anything, so we wouldn't actually have a control plane. So yeah, we use CapD to create the control plane, and then we just create CapK worker nodes, basically.
Okay, yeah. So for that stuff, I'm still not sure if this is your question, but for that stuff, you can already move from Docker cluster to dev cluster.
Okay.
That's like compatible. You just have to modify the YAMLs a little bit.
Okay, awesome.
And that's basically what we did in Core Capi. In Core Capi, I think we either have no or very minimal end-to-end test coverage for Docker star CRs at this point.
Okay.
Like 99% of our end-to-end tests are now using dev cluster, dev machine pool, that sort of stuff.
Okay.
And also we were planning to drop the Docker stuff sort of soonish, the Docker CRDs. So the provider is still the same. It's just we have the new CRDs and the old ones will go away maybe next cycle or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess can we still use Docker machine, or will we need to switch to something else, I guess?
You are going to use the dev machine with a Docker backend.
Right. Okay. Right.
So for you, the change is basically you just switch from Docker something object, Docker machine template to dev machine template.
Right.
And then when you look at your YAML, you move that slightly deeper, some of the config into like, I don't know, spec Docker or spec backend Docker or something like that. The fields are still the same. They're just a bit deeper in the structure and they're basically namespace to Docker.
Okay.
But you can definitely take a look at our end-to-end YAMLs. They should all look like this now.
Right. Like, yeah, like we're using this, like,
Yep. For example, Docker machine template, like the dev machine template is just, if you go up a little bit, more. Yeah, stop. Line, just fine. Line 29, right? Actually 33. So you will change the kind basically to dev machine template, and then you'll change this to spec template spec, and I think backend Docker or just Docker, and then extra mounts. That's it. And you can just compare with copy.
Yeah, I'll compare with the Cappy stuff. This is good to know because like I'm just about to do another release for CapK, and that, like I'm almost up to 1.13. So like I want to get things back in good shape here.
So in 1.14.0, we definitely still have the Docker CRs.
Okay.
Just the question is if it's still in 1.15.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to put
the dev stuff is there.
Right. Since this is for testing, I'm trying to push it to the bleeding edge anyways. So
are you using machine pools?
Not yet. We need to create a machine pool type for CapK. That's kind of like on my long list of things to do.
I think the dev machine pool was implemented in 1.13.
Okay.
So you need at least 1.13 for dev machine pool.
Okay. All right, cool.
Just to do that.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Does anybody else have questions about the new releases for the 1.13 or 1.12 releases or the upcoming 1.14 alpha release? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands going up. Did you have anything else to add about the 1.14 release, Stefan?
No, I got this.
Okay.
Yes, just a reminder. Probably it has been discussed also last week, but one important point that gives us the introduction of the API Go module is that now the plan is to keep the min Go version used to build stable for the API module, but core copy in all the release branches, we will be able to bump Go version when required to fix CVEs, which is quite important now considering all the amount of CVEs that we are dealing with. But yeah, I'm writing a proposal where I document all this stuff. I try to document all this stuff and further changes that we would like to do in code organizations. Hopefully some end of next week. Next week I will get it ready.
Okay, I'm not going to put a hard timeline in here because I wouldn't do that to you for Brazilian.
Yeah.
Okay, does anybody else have comments or questions? And I think that's really cool about the Golang versions you're doing there because like I have some ideas about ways that I'd like to use the API module with some experimental work I'm doing. So like I think it's really cool to help. That'll really help people out in reusing it and everything. So I really appreciate the forethought there. Okay. Anybody else? Questions, comments, ad hoc topics before we might take back a little more than 35 minutes of our day here. It's a big deal on a Wednesday. Okay, going once. Going twice. All right. We'll call it a meeting. Thanks everybody for coming out, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for hosting.
Thank you for hosting. Bye.